Welcome back to On the Line. I am your accountant, Samira Moyedin. If I told you this story, you'd say I was exaggerating. You'd probably think it was unbelievable. Imagine you're a 25-year-old photojournalist and writer in Gaza. You're being bombarded. You meet a director who decides to make you the protagonist of her documentary, and you find out that that documentary is set to premiere in Cannes in May. Less than 24 hours after getting that news, Israel drops 3 bombs on your home and kills you and 9 members of your family, including your sister who was pregnant and yourself who was just to be married in a couple of days. Unbelievable. But that's exactly what happened to Fatima Hassouna. Fatima Hassouna is the protagonist in French-Iranian director Sepideh Farsi's documentary, Put Your Soul on Your Hand and Walk. She had told Fatima that it was going to premiere in Cannes, and less than 24 hours after, the Israeli army bombed her home, killing her and her family members. Fatima Hassouna's weapon was her camera, and as Israel has shown throughout the past 18 months, it doesn't want any witnesses to its genocide. I want to play you a little bit of the trailer of Sepideh's film. Watch this.
I'm a photographer.
Yes, I saw your photos.
Meeting her was like a mirror held in front of me that made me realize how much both our lives are conditioned by walls and wars.
You have many options to die here in South Gaza. You can die by bombing or fear, starvation.
Each of our conversations could be the last one, as Israeli bombs fall everywhere in Gaza all the time.
I was so much.
Yeah, me too.
So every time we connect and I can see her face, it feels like a miracle.
It's a very, very powerful documentary, as you can tell from the trailer. Here's my conversation with French-Iranian director Sepideh Farsi. You don't want to miss this. The award-winning director Sepideh Farsi joins me now on the line. Thank you so much for being here. Fatima Hassouna, or Fatem, as I've heard you call her, and her friends and family, how do you come to know her?
It was an accident. It was a miracle. I had started finding the dominant narrative in the media about the ongoing war against Gaza after the October 7th attacks. You know, that initial attack was a shock. And then what unfolded afterwards was even a bigger shock. And beyond all the political aspects, just the sheer fact that the Palestinian point of view was always absent from the media, practically all of the media, and save from perhaps from Al Jazeera a little bit, because Al Jazeera covers, of course, much more. But the Palestinians themselves from inside Gaza were never there to talk and to say how they felt. You know, and as an Iranian, I really feel that very intensely, that we are never asked how we feel. Other people talk about us and our feelings. You know, so I thought I want to go there and try to find out. So at some point in April last year, I just bought a ticket to Cairo. I said, I'm going. I took my gears. I just left Paris to go there and try to pass through Rafah to go to Gaza to film. But of course, it was very naive of me because it was not possible. I couldn't go. I was blocked. So I had connections with the Palestinian refugees to film them and interview them, those who had just come from Gaza. And through one of them, I was introduced to Fatem. He told me, I have a friend, she's still in North Gaza, she's great. She's a great girl, you have to meet her. She's perfect, she's brilliant, she's energetic. She's a great photographer. You have to meet her. I mean, this expectation of, and then he asked her if she's prepared to talk to me. And from the first video call, from the first moment, I just saw her, we connected, and I said, can I film this? And she said, yes. And that was it. It started. And it went on for a year.
You just got up, packed your bags, and went to Cairo.
Yes.
Because you were missing the voice from inside.
Yes.
At what point do you realize, okay, I want this to become a documentary, or I want to feature Fatma?
The fact that I wanted to make a film, I knew when I was going to Cairo. How? I didn't know exactly. But I was, I'm used to this thing of not knowing and searching while I'm filming. This is part of my documentary filmmaking style. I mean, or many documentary filmmakers do that. Some know exactly what they want to do. Some don't know and find out on the way. I mean, while riding. The fact that she would be the sole protagonist, I think it's from this, not maybe, if not the first, then the second call 2 days later or something like that, the next day. I mean, the first time we talked about an hour or more, and then but this kind of is like kind of fascination immediately. And I think she was also fascinated by me. I mean, the connection, it just clicked, like these never-ending phone calls with people with whom you immediately become friend, or whom you in love with, immediately you fall in love with. I mean, it was this human thing, connection. It just happened. She was much younger, she was my daughter's age. And I told her that. I said, you're so young. I mean, and she'd never been outside Gaza. She told me, I want to go to Tehran. I said, I can't go to Tehran myself. She said, why? Oh, why? I said, because if I go there, they arrest me. And they said, why? She said. And I was like, she was so naive, pure, innocent, and also very mature, of course, at the same time.
I'm going to get to that because you see that through her work. It's the smile, her smile, that really just captivates you.
Yes.
And there's this image of where she's speaking with you, she's beaming, and her brother is in the back. I'm assuming it's her brother because it looks like her, and they have that same beautiful smile, both of them.
Both of them are dead. He died as well. He died as well.
He did die.
All of them.
I was going through some of her photos. I went back even before October 7th, 2023, and I was looking to see if her eye had changed in any way, sort of this after October 7th. I don't know if that makes any sense, but and I really noticed that it hadn't. She was still very exacting and sensitive, and just the composition of everything, like she just guides your eye along each photo. How do you, you came to know her, how do you explain such depth and care in someone so young?
I think there's no explanation. I think each one of us, some of us are like that. She was a unique person. She was very sensitive. She had great writings. Her poems were great, and also prose. Her texts generally. She had this, on one hand, she was this candid girl, young woman who wanted to have a normal life, get married, have children. She talked about this normality she was missing under the war. She said she missed it, many a times. But on the other hand, she was this person who had this mission of documenting Gaza before the war, during the war, and she didn't make it after. But I don't know what built it in her. I know that one of her sisters was a painter, the one who was pregnant and who was killed as well. It's like, it's just it's too much. But I don't know if it runs in the family, but I think it was her particularly. There was something in her. As you said, she was glowing, she was beaming generally, and she had this, even when she was depressed, she had this smile, and she laughed. And that moment you talked about, it was very, it's a dear moment to me in the film. When I was in Montreal, in fact, when I filmed that, and I I talked to her about the festival, that I talked about Palestine and Iran and things like that. And then all of a sudden I see the brother coming in the frame, like, putting his head in. I was like, what does he want? And she says, he said, and he answered in Arabic, and I understood what he meant. He said, I want to see the lady. I want to see the lady. And she said, she laughed, and she said, I said, why does he want to see me? She said, because you're the first Iranian one without hijab he's seeing. He wants to see you.
That's amazing.
It was such a moment, and we all laughed for like a minute. I mean, it was so unique, and these were the moments we shared with her. I'm talking about the veil, faith, God, Islam. I'm a non-believer. I told her from the beginning, and things we disagreed about, and life, women, the political. I mean, I don't know, things, but it was amazing.
I love how she couldn't understand how you couldn't go back to Iran and she couldn't leave Gaza.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I tried to explain. It's not easy, but yes.
I was wondering, did you have any, as an artist, did you have any hesitation at all in sort of making this connection?
Making the connection with her, you mean?
Yes, yeah, or
Why?
wanting to do the documentary. I'm just wondering because I've spoken to other people who, when as journalists, for instance, we want to get someone on the ground to give us footage or something. We always wonder, are we putting this person in jeopardy? Are we putting them in peril in any way? Did you ever have any sense of that at all?
I didn't think that I was putting her in jeopardy because she was already doing her work
Yes.
when we met. I always told her, because she did have to walk at times quite a long distance to get connections. So she would say, like, I can't go today, or now I will go in 2 hours. At 5 p.m., the connection will be gone. So I have to. So we had to. I remember once I was late and I ran and I connected and we talked and we were just about to talk and it was cut and I couldn't get her again. And I was like, that's 5 o'clock. She told me it would be cut. I'm too late. It's like, no, but putting her in jeopardy, I thought I was afraid to lose her every day for this past year. Not because of me generally, because she was under the bombs. And that's what happened at the end. I mean, they were bombing. The bombings are so targeted and random. So much so, both ways, that one way or the other, she could have been, hit because of the amount of the attacks that happen every day, like all the other people. And but of course, I was also concerned about her security. For instance, I thought about that a lot, whether or not I should tell her family name. Maybe I shouldn't have. But then I realized she was already known on Instagram and with other medias with her
Oh
full
no,
name.
yes.
Everyone knew. So there was no point in me hiding her name. I mean, I just took her telephone off, of course, the image, so that the phone number is not seen at least. But I thought about that days and, things like, and then I reached the conclusion that there was no point hiding her because, I mean, her face is there and her full name is on the internet already. So all I told her was, don't take risks, meaning that if you can't take connection, you don't have connection. Okay, I'll wait. So that was it. But it was, I was afraid to lose her every day. And I never thought or wanted to believe that she would be gone one day. I thought she would survive.
I guess I should correct myself too, because when I said jeopardy or hesitation, I meant that at the emotional level, because there are friends that I have in Gaza who I text with. I don't talk to them every day, and if I don't see those two blue check,
Exactly.
I'm always worried until that connection is made. So I was just thinking about your heart, really, like making that emotional connection with people who are under constant bombardment. I mean, it's not easy. I imagine it took quite a toll.
Yes. But I mean, the thing is, I had that discussion a lot with my family, my closest people, dearest people, and friends also. Some of them said, I can't take this. No, thinking of that all the time, it blows my mind. I can't watch this picture. I can't see this or read this text because it blows my mind. And I was saying, but the fact of you not reading it or watching this photo does not erase the crimes, the victims, the exactions, you don't see them because you don't want to see them. It's your choice, but they still happen. So it's something. I mean, I've been posting about Gaza since, I don't know, for a long time, and I put so many posts. Sometimes I'm tired of myself being compulsive in doing so. Yeah, and I think slow down. Maybe that's too much. People will never look at all of these things, and I can't. I think I have to share. And I think there are quite a few people like that. There are also people who say, okay, it's a big discussion. I was watching one of your talks, I think, with one of your guests, and you had exactly this discussion of how much you feel like sharing these horrible images or not, and at what level one gets numb and used to
Oh, it
them.
was with Noura Erakat.
Exactly, by Noor Erakat, exactly, and what is, nevertheless, it's necessary to share it, because so that other people know. And I have a feeling sometimes that it's a small circle of people who we're all in the same circle, and we keep sharing, and I don't know how far it reaches. I don't know, but I think I'm beyond those considerations,
Yeah.
way way beyond that.
I wanted to ask you about the impact that she had on your understanding of what was happening in Gaza. How much of an impact do you think she had on your understanding of what was going on the ground?
Uh, I think I had not imagined the degree of horror and severity of shortages. Although I was reading it in the news or listening to it, it's one thing to, even people in Cairo had told me that they were eating animal food for like months, before there was again an opening, and food came in. At some point, late winter and early spring last year, this was the case. But when Fatem started telling me these things in her words, it was a different way of, it hit me differently. This, she had this way of, I don't know, she said, I haven't had chicken in 7 months, and I haven't had chocolate even once. I know chocolate is a luxury, but it's important, isn't it? And she says that, and you're like, that's true. It's just, she had this way of wording things, very simple and yet very clear, obvious. I mean, it was like, and I think she never had a chocolate.
That was one of the banned items, actually.
Yes.
On the list. Yeah.
Yes. And it's true, it is luxury, but I mean, but it was beyond. I mean, it has so many levels of, I think we don't really imagine what it means. Even me, through her words, I still don't get it. It's beyond what we can imagine. It's hell.
Yeah, it reminds you that there is someone who controls what you consume, what gets in and what gets out. I think it acts as a reminder. You called her, so this hours before her death, you call her and tell her that the film that she's a protagonist in will be premiering in Cannes. What was her response to that? What was that phone call like?
She glue. She was, yeah, I mean, yeah, radiant. She had a big smile. She was so happy. And because we'd been talking about this since last year, I called her even literally when I was in Cannes last year for an event, for an exhibition. And I was doing phone calls with her hidden in one of the Cannes hotels, and I have the images of those video calls as well. And so when I told her this and told her also that I was trying to organize an exhibition of her photos, she was so elated and happy, and she accepted to come. And I sent her the invitation and started the visa
Oh,
request.
you going through the process.
Yes, I had just started. I wanted her to come. I wanted her to make it on time. We weren't sure because Rafah is still closed, of course,
Mhm.
so it's very difficult it was highly possible also that she couldn't make it, but we were trying, and she said, I want to go back afterwards because they want us to leave the occupation wants us to leave our homes and lands. I don't want to. I will go back to Gaza afterwards. And
this would have been the first time she would have left, you said.
yes.
Her cousin said, I read that her cousin said their home was struck by 3 missiles, killing her and 9 members of her family. In the documentary, we get to see some of the family members. Also, you were speaking about her brother. What kind of family were they? How close were they?
I think they were very. I don't know the Palestinian lifestyle that well. I think they're very warm generally, all the Palestinian families. I think her family was not an exception. They were very warm and welcoming, and they were all very attached to me. So she would say, like her father would come in, her mother would come in at points, like, when will the war finish? I would say, I don't know. I mean, how would I know? It's like as though I was the prophecy. I mean, I wish I would know, but I mean, I said, but then and they were very, yes, united, simple family. Her father was a taxi driver before the war, and he had been jobless since the war had started because there was no gas to. So, I mean, I think Fatima was the one who was bringing in the little money that was coming in by selling her some photos or doing some odd jobs. And she also worked with traumatized children. At some point for a few months, 6 months or so, she was working, and she was very happy with that job as well. It was she was writing their stories, she was doing writing workshops, and well, the brothers, they were not. There was no schooling. They were held at home. They were doing, getting water, bringing wood. I mean, this kind of. But what really struck me was also their smiles. I saw glorious people. I mean, I can't say happy in the sense that they were under bombs, but there was always, I would imagine myself in their shoes. I mean, I put myself in their shoes. I was like, how could I smile like that? They're deprived from everything. I mean, like water, electricity, food, bombings on their heads and all. And they had these smiles that you see on the photos. I mean, not only her, also her brothers and all. They were all, I don't know, there was some joy of, and this, something like she would tell me, oh, my mom has cooked sometimes when there was a little bit of food, and she would send me the photo of what her mother had cooked. The only thing I think they had, this was really brilliant. I saw her, because I love Mahmoud Darwish's poetry, and that poem specifically, the smell of coffee, that there, and I told her about that because she was drinking coffee, and I said, you're drinking coffee? And I said, you remember Mahmoud Darwish's poetry? And she's like, yes, and and she said, this is Arabic coffee. And I said, you still can find coffee? And she said, it's the only thing that we can still find on the market that makes you think life has still some sense.
Wow.
For her to say that while sipping her little coffee, I mean, this is like, she had these words. It was, I don't know. It's, yeah.
I kept thinking if anyone wrote this story, it would be really unbelievable. Like you would say it's too far-fetched. You have a photographer, 25-year-old, finds out the film she's a protagonist in is going to be premiering in Cannes. Her sister, pregnant. She's a few days away from being married. I read that also. And then gets killed 24 hours after. I mean, if you read that in a script, someone would say to you, this is unbelievable.
They would say it's too much, you're exaggerating.
Exactly. It's too far-fetched. What do you do? I mean, as an artist, as someone who is documenting what's going on, what do you do with this level of cruelty? How do you park that away and still function?
I don't know. I think it's just the promise that I made to her, never by unwritten or, but I had a pact with her to carry her image in the film and to carry her images out there in the world. That's the only thing that makes me keep going, on, because otherwise, I mean, it breaks you. It just breaks you. It's just so unfair. It's beyond. Yeah, exactly. I mean, if I would read this, I would say, "Oh, come on, it can't be true." But it is true.
Uh, I want to get to her death. How did you find out?
One of my I had disconnected for a few hours to work on the film material I was preparing for Canon. So I was working on my computer, and then all of a sudden my phone was next to me, and I just saw a message coming. I picked up to have a look, and I just saw a screenshot with her photo and the news on it, and her message saying, "Have you seen this?" I just wrote back, "What is this?" I couldn't take it in. I said, "No, that's a mistake," because I'd already had this a couple of times in the past year when there was a homonymous family hit, or a news about her neighborhood and she wouldn't answer, or a displacement and she was not answering, and I had feared to have lost her.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought this was one of those times. It was a mistake, it was a misconnection, and so I started looking around. I couldn't find that exact post, and I reached out to our common friend, the one who put me in touch with her, and he confirmed it. And then, because he's from the same neighborhood, so I was sure he would know if. So that was.
There's so many tens of thousands of people who have died, been killed in Gaza. We don't know their names. We don't know their dreams, their stories. I'm wondering what it's meant for you to be able to bring Fatem to the world.
Um, this is what I wanted to do when I went there, to find someone. The thing that I had not imagined, and I wish it would not have happened, is that this person, this dear person who became so dear to me, would be dead by the time it was finished, the film was ready. My dream was for this year to bring her out and we showed the film together. This is what we were dreaming of. And she was telling me that she wanted me to come to Gaza, and then we would walk on the streets together, and her mom would cook for us, and when I talked to her best friend a few days ago to get the details, and it shattered me again, she told me, I know, she knew also, I know Fatem told you that you would meet in Gaza, so I will wait for you to come to Gaza and we'll meet. It's like, I have to go there. I will go there.
Um, as I noted off the top, you described meeting her was like a mirror held in front of me. What did you mean by that when you said that?
She reminded me of many things I was one day when I was her age, and the fact how I had changed. I mean, by leaving Iran, I was stuck in Iran at some point. I left at the age of 18, but I had been stuck. I know what it meant to not to have a passport, not to be able to go, to be denied a visa, not to have money. I mean, to go to jail. On my side, she was never jailed, but I mean, to be stuck, meaning this feeling physically to be stuck somewhere, and you want to be out, you want to be somewhere else, you want to go, travel, discover the world, and you can't. She was fully in this frustration, but she was living it with such grace. And I, I was just like, in awe. I was admiring her courage, her sense of I don't know, resilience. Is the word is the
Yes.
word is pale to describe what I mean. Um, and yeah, so she reminded me of certain things that I was one day, in terms of what I had lived, and yet she was so inventive and full of energy and all of those. That's what I meant by this mirroring, effect.
But this isn't your first time sort of looking at war, the consequences and things like that. You've explored that in your other work, and also explored sort of government repression, when you covered the Green Movement in your film in 2014. What is it that sort of pulls you towards these stories, do you think?
this is how we are. I think I'm a result of all that I have lived through. I've grown up with this. My parents, we as Iranians are now. Some people choose not to go that way. Some people keep away from it. Say, I'm an artist. I'm not a politician, or I don't want to. I think from the moment I decided to become a filmmaker and to work with images generally. The question of what is politics and what's not, and the question of the boundaries, meaning between fiction and documentary, between politics and art, between art and activism, it doesn't exist anymore. And even if I maybe at some point earlier in my career tried to observe some boundaries, I realized I couldn't. I would keep crossing these lines myself constantly. So, and at some point I realized, and the more I go, the further I am in my career and in my life, the more I realize that the less I observe these, of course, it brings me and it gives me a sense of freedom in terms of form also, of things that I'm doing now. I really want to experience everything. I'm doing a graphic novel on my life. I want to do another animation. I want to publish photography now. I mean, all these things, and certainly what Fatem has given me, and I really have to carry her legacy, is yet another experience of doing, because I never thought I would have to do this. I just made a film, Now I'm given this mission for her, for her family, for the Palestinians, at my level. I'm doing it personally. I don't want to be taken, people might take me wrong. What an arrogance, how did she think that she could do that? And she's not even Palestinian. And true. But just at my level, at my very modest level as a person, as a filmmaker,
I was reading an article about her in The Guardian recently, and they quoted her as saying that she didn't want to die a quiet death.
Oh,
hello, bonjour.
Naranj. They're
Hi.
on the film as well. They always
Yes, I saw a clip
in the
where
frame.
Narenj walks across the screen.
Yes,
Uh,
sure, get that.
as I said, she said she didn't want to die a quiet death. She wanted a quote loud death. It seems like you've made that commitment that you're going to give her that loud death. How do you think you're going to remember her the most? How will you remember her?
Her smile, her eyes. I mean, she was all the things that come to my mind about her are related to light somehow, and a very proud girl, very proud. There were many things she was, she wouldn't want to talk about, being down when she was down, when she was not feeling well. Usually she would refrain from, showing.
Yeah.
Yes. And the one time she started crying in front of the camera because we talked about her losses in the war, because she had lost 13 family members last year. That one time she apologized for crying. I was like, come on. I mean, and she was like, no, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. And it's, I don't know, she had this beautiful attitude regarding life. And one thing that I also admired in her was the absence of anger, resilience without anger. That is enormous. That's something, because many people in these situations could, become angry,
Rightly
grow
so.
hatred, and they have the right to be angry because it's unfair what they're going through. Generally, I would say that amongst Palestinians, I see that a lot, but Fatem was exemplary. I mean, it's like never a word of complaint. It was always making things positive, humor, joking about them, and going further, going beyond. And
You used the word mission a couple of times while we were speaking, and I'm wondering if having that mission in the same way that Fatem had a mission to document what was happening, is that sort of what's keeping you sane right now?
Yes, absolutely. It is. Um, I feel this sometimes with, yes, at points of my life, I feel that I have a mission to carry on a message. It's always the case with the films. When you make films, you always think of a message that you have a message that you want to carry, but sometimes you really feel it as a mission. This is one of those times, yes.
I think we'll leave it there. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Merci.